Hello, my name is William, and in this video I'll be going over one of the more powerful features in Impero, datasheets. This feature allows you to have multiple controls populating a single shared data table, approving and adding new data row by row until the task is complete. Most commonly we see this used with something like a monthly account reconciliation, which will be the example I'll set up today. I can create a new datasheet inside of an existing control program here. First, I need to build the underlying structure of the datasheet using either text or numeric columns. I click to add each column type, and I can copy, reorder, and delete as necessary. In this example, I have a list of accounts, their values, and which financial statement line item they belong to. At least one of my columns must be a unique key, and for this I'll use the account name because I know I won't have any duplicate values here. I then need to decide which column or columns will act as my grouping, which will allow me to choose which rows are displayed in my controls later on. And with that, the first half of my datasheet setup is complete. But before moving on to the response editor, I have the option to disable live update of datasheet, which essentially locks the reference data on active controls. By ticking this box, any changes to the datasheet will not be reflected until the next scheduled instance of the control is sent out. Otherwise, any updates to the datasheet will be immediately visible on live control activities. The response editor allows me to create the columns that users will fill out when performing the actual control. You might recognize some of these same task types from Impero's control designer, and we even have the ability to make some columns conditional, just like control tasks. Building the response is the same as the initial structure. Click to create new columns, and reorder using the drop-down menu. When I'm done building my response columns, I need to add my reference data to the datasheet itself. I can add and remove rows manually, but in most cases it's easier just to copy and paste from your own external data source. It is also possible to automate updates to a datasheet via an API. You can find a step-by-step guide on how to set this up on our Help Center under Integrations. Once the datasheet has been added to a control program, I'll get access to the datasheet task type in the control designer. On this task, I first select which datasheet I want to use, and then the grouping. Earlier, I set the financial statement line item as my grouping column, so here I see all of those different values available as individual groupings. For now, I'll select the bank grouping, but I can have multiple groupings on a single control simply by creating a second datasheet task. When it's time to perform the actual control, I'll see all rows in the datasheet that are identified by my chosen grouping value, as well as the response columns that I, as the control performer, need to fill out. I can adjust the view to bring in my reference data, and when I've given my responses, I verify the row and move on to the next one. All of this data is brought back together in our reporting module under Datasheet Reports. Each datasheet you create will be shown here as its own separate report. The datasheet report is a live updating table of all rows that have been sent out in controls. You can filter for individual groupings, responsible users, or any other information attached to the datasheet. Exporting this report will give you a fully reconciled overview of all datasheet activities. I hope this video demo has given you some inspiration on how to incorporate datasheets into your own workflow. And as always, please let us know if you need any help making the most of Impero.